Your wife's completely checked out. She's cold. She says she's done. And you can feel it in your gut that something's breaking. This video is for you. Because here's the truth. Even when she's 100% given up, there's still a path. But it's not what you think. Most men try to talk her into staying. Or they back off hoping she'll miss them. Neither works. Because words don't rebuild trust. Leadership does. In this video, I'm going to show you how men inside the heroic husband method have rebuilt their marriages even when their wife says it's over. No begging, no games, just calm, consistent action that makes her want to see you differently again. And if you're watching this thinking, that's exactly where I'm at right now, don't wait. Use the link below to book a call with my team. We'll map out the same game plan that's already helped thousands of men rebuild trust, reignite real connection, even when she'd emotionally checked out. Now, let's get into it. You know what almost every man says to me on our first call? She says she's done. I've tried everything. Nothing works. And when I hear that, I know exactly where he's at because I've been there too. It's the quiet kind of panic. You start doing everything you think you're supposed to do. You talk calmly. You help more around the house. You take the kids to school, cook dinner, walk on eggshells just to avoid one more blow up. And for a moment, you think maybe it's working until she pulls even further away. Now she's polite, but cold. She thanks you for taking out the trash, but there's no warmth behind it. She doesn't argue anymore, but she doesn't smile either. It's like she's there, but she's gone. That's when doubt starts to whisper. Maybe she's the problem. Maybe this marriage is just broken. Maybe I should stop trying. But brother, here's the hard truth. What's breaking isn't the marriage. It's the pattern the two of you are trapped in. You're not broken. She's not broken. You're just caught in a loop, and you've been spinning in it for so long, you've stopped noticing it's even there. So let me tell you about a client we had, call him Jason. When Jason came to me, his wife had already told him flat out, I love you, but I'm not in love with you. He was doing everything right. He had read books, listened to podcasts, tried tips. He was calmer, more helpful, more patient, but he still felt invisible. She wouldn't even make eye contact with him anymore. He told me, Noah, it's like I'm doing everything right. I'm supposed to, but the more I do, the less she cares. And what I told Jason is what I'll tell you. You can't fix what's visible until you change what's invisible. Because what you're really fighting isn't her attitude. It's the energy, the rhythm, the emotional current that's been flowing between you for years. It's like the two of you built a dance without even realizing it. And every step, every move you make triggers the next one in her. You speak, she defends. She withdraws, you chase. You back off, she feels abandoned. And around and around and around and around it goes. The pattern is the problem, not the people. Think of it like this. You're both standing in a rowboat out in the middle of a lake. Every time she rocks the boat, you grab the edge and rock back, trying to steady it. But that movement only makes waves worse. The more you try to fix the rocking, the more unsteady the whole boat becomes. And it's not until one of you finally plants your feet, takes a deep breath, and steadies the oars that the water finally starts to calm down. That's what this is about. Because when your wife says, I'm done, what she's really saying is, I don't feel safe in the storm anymore. So from here on out, we're going to stop reacting to the waves and start becoming the anchor again by responding properly. And to do that, you've got to understand what's actually keeping the storm alive. The invisible loops running between you and her every single day. So let's break this down next. I want you to imagine your marriage is like a living body, a full organism. Every system inside of it is connected. When one organ fails, the rest begins to weaken. Now, inside the body, your relationship, there are two kinds of weaknesses: what's happening inside you and what's showing up between you. The inside stuff, that's what I call internal weaknesses. They're the quiet things that eat away at your strength. That resentment you tried to not to admit is there, the victim mindset, the whole no matter what I do, nothing changes, self-doubt, or needing her approval just to feel like you're enough. Then you've got the external weaknesses, what the world can see: poor communication, defensiveness, walking on eggshells, or those cold 5-minute conversations that end in silence or a whole whatever. And here's the key: just like the human body, the inside drives outside. If your internal state is off, your actions will always come out sideways. No amount of clever text, heartfelt letters, or relationship hacks can cover that up. Because the relationship isn't just reacting to what you say, it's reacting to what you are. So here's how this really works. Your beliefs shape your interpretations. Your interpretations fuel your feelings, and your feelings drive your actions. Those actions create your results. Then those results feed right back into your beliefs, forming a loop that either builds connection or slowly kills it. Let me show you what that looks like in real life. So picture this. You and your wife are talking. It starts normal, light, polite. Then something small sets her off. Maybe she sighs, crosses her arms, or shuts down mid-sentence. You ask, "What's wrong?" She says, "Nothing." But her tone? Ice cold. And in that split second, your mind fires off a thought. She's impossible. She's toxic. She's avoidant again. That belief, that interpretation, hits your nervous system like a shock wave. You tense up, your voice tightens, your body gets rigid, you start defending yourself or trying to fix her mood. You feel that tension, and she feels that tension. To her, it's not leadership, it's pressure. So she retreats even more. Now you're frustrated that she's pulling away, and she's retreating because she feels unsafe. And without realizing it, you've both just stepped into cycle 1. Your frustration feeds her defensiveness. Then comes cycle 2. Those little moments stack up like bricks. Every unfinished conversation, every silent dinner, every "we'll talk later" adds another layer. Before long, you've built a wall so tall, neither of you can see over it. And finally, cycle 3, safety disappears, trust fades, and the invisible distance between you two becomes a new normal. That's how good men who provide, protect, give everything, end up feeling invisible in their own homes. Here's the part most men miss though. She's not reacting to your words, she's reacting to your energy. I know, it's a little bit of a foreign concept for most men. But you can say, "I love you," but if underneath that love is frustration, fear, or neediness, she'll feel that more than the words. Because the feminine listens to what her nervous system, not her ears, so the real work starts with changing what you believe about the moment, not what you say in the moment. So if you're sitting there thinking, she's checked out, she's cold, she doesn't want this anymore, I get it. I've been there. But you're not up against her. You're up against those hidden loops. The moment you change what you bring into the loop, everything starts to shift. So next, I'm going to break down exactly how those internal and external loops connect and how to stop reacting to them like a man fighting the wind. Instead, you're going to learn how to become the calm center of the storm, the one thing in her world that finally feels safe again. All right, you've probably noticed this already. Most relationship advice out there tells you to focus on actions, what to say, what to text, what not to do. But here's the truth, brother. That's like putting a Band-Aid on an infection. It might cover the wound, but it doesn't heal what's underneath. Because you can say all the right words, you can do all of the right things. But if underneath those actions, your beliefs, your emotions, your energy is off, she'll feel it instantly. And that's not opinion, that's biology. Her nervous system is wired to pick up what's real. If your words say, I love you, but your tone, body, or your eyes say, I'm angry, scared, or desperate, her body believes the second one every single time. That's why most men burn out trying to act right. They're brute forcing niceness. They're saying the right words, holding the right posture, and checking all the boxes they think a good husband should check. But it doesn't land because it's not coming from truth. It's coming from fear. Fear of losing her, fear of messing up again, fear of being rejected. And when you lead from fear, even if your actions look good, they always come off as manipulation, not love, until you shift the internal patterns that drive your reactions. You'll always relapse. That's why some of you feel like you're pushing a boulder up a hill, like Sisyphus. You make progress for 1 week, maybe 2, but then it all slides back down. She opens up a little, you feel hope, then one moment of resistance from her knocks you right back into frustration or self-doubt. And every time it happens, you lose a little more faith that things can change. It's not because you're weak, it's because you're using effort to fight emotions. And effort always loses to emotion. The answer isn't more trying, it's different wiring. Think of it like a computer. If the system underneath has a virus, no matter how many new programs you install, they'll all crash. You can't fix it by typing faster or pressing harder. You've got to clean out the code. You've got to change the operating system itself. That's what this next phase is about. Because when you stop trying to do love and instead start being the calm, grounded man she can trust again, everything changes. So let me show you what the new wiring looks like and how the men who rebuild their marriages do it differently than everyone else. Because they don't fight the storm. They learn how to control the weather. So let's talk about the 2 paths every man ends up choosing: surviving or thriving. Now, most men, without even realizing it, live in survival mode. They're reacting to every emotional storm. They're waiting until she's angry to start breathing again. They only journal when they're panicked. They apologize not because they understand, but because they just want to calm her down. That's surviving. And brother, surviving is exhausting because when you live in reaction mode, you're fighting the wind instead of learning how to build a sail. Thriving is different. Thriving means you rebuild from the root. You stop chasing symptoms. You start changing the source. You go back to the beliefs that created the storm in the first place. When you shift what something means, everything downstream changes. Let me give you an example. Most men see their wives' resistance, her coldness, her short tone, her distance, as rejection. They think she's pulling away again. She doesn't care. That belief instantly triggers the body to tense up, heart rate to rise. You withdraw or you chase. Either way, the storm grows. But what if you saw her resistance as something completely different? What if her coldness wasn't cruelty, but her nervous system saying, I don't feel safe yet? Think about that. That one shift, that one tiny change in meaning stops the whole flywheel of resentment before it even starts spinning. Because suddenly, you're not angry anymore. You're curious. You're calm. You're in control. That's the difference between a man who survives his marriage and a man who leads it back to life. Think of it like sailing. When the wind changes, most men start panicking, grabbing the ropes, yelling, trying to force the boat back on course. They're surviving. It burns you out. It gets you nowhere. But a skilled sailor doesn't fight the wind. He adjusts the sails. He knows he can't control the storm, but he can control how he moves through it. That is thriving. And when you lead your marriage like that, from calm, grounded adjustment instead of panicking, everything around you starts to change. because she's no longer feeling your chaos. She's feeling your steadiness. And that, my friend, is where trust and attraction start to rebuild, not from words, but from presence. So if you've been trying and trying and trying, and all you're getting back is silence or coldness, remember this. It's not that you're doing too little. It's that you're trying to fix the storm while you're standing in it. Thriving means stepping out of it and changing the wind at its source. Next, I'm going to show you how to take the new mindset and actually stop the negative feedback loops that have been running your marriage into the ground. Because once you see how to reverse them, you'll realize you were never powerless. You just need a new map. Every relationship runs on feedback loops. What you do affects how she feels. How she feels affects how she treats you. And how she treats you affects what you do next. Round and round it goes. If you've been in this long enough, you know exactly what I mean. Right now, most of you are trapped in a negative loop, the kind that drains both of you. She withdraws, you get frustrated, you try to talk, she shuts down, you feel rejected, so you pull back. She feels abandoned, so she retreats further. And just like that, another full cycle of disconnection repeats, sometimes 3 times in one conversation. That's how marriages die slowly, or what we call death by 1,000 cuts. Not from one big explosion, but from a tiny 1,000 small emotional paper cuts. So here's what most men get wrong. They're trying to change her directly. They argue, they plead, they lecture. They say, "You're not listening." They double down, thinking logic will solve emotion. But you can't lead emotion with logic. You can't change her directly. You can only change the environment she's reacting to. That, my friend, is leadership. Think about it. If you create an environment of calm, consistency, and safety, her nervous system will eventually mirror it. Because nobody blooms in chaos. They bloom where they feel safe. You can't force a flower to open up faster, but you can change the soil, the sunlight, and the air around it. And when the environment feels safe enough, it opens on its own. So here's what I want you to do next time she shuts down. Don't chase, don't retreat, just pause. Take one deep breath, ground yourself in your body, and say calmly, without sarcasm, without defense, "I can see this is too much right now. I get why you feel that way. I'm here when you're ready." That's it. You've just flipped the script. You've gone from pressure to peace, from control to leadership, from survival to safety. And safety, not speeches, is what starts a new feedback loop, because the moment she feels safe, her body finally starts to lower its defenses. And that's when connection can begin again. Now, I want you to imagine this. Your wife's sitting on the couch. You've been trying to talk for 10 minutes, but she's cold, arms crossed, eyes distant, that 1,000-yard stare. You can feel the tension rising in your chest, the old reflex that wants to prove, defend, and explain. But this time, you don't take the bait. You stay calm. You lean back slightly. You breathe. And instead of pushing, you say, "I can see this feels heavy. I'll give you space." And you quietly get up, go outside, and let silence do work in your favor. Now imagine what that feels like to her. She was expecting a fight. She was bracing for the same old pattern, but it never came. That confusion she feels in that moment, that's the reset button for her nervous system, because her brain suddenly realizes this is new. I don't have to defend myself. And that's where the new feedback loop starts. Not in a perfect conversation, but in a different energy. Think of it like 2 tuning forks. One vibrates, the other one starts to hum at the same frequency. If your frequency is tension, she'll match it. Our women are our best mirrors to us as leaders. If your frequency is calm, she'll eventually match that too. So stop yelling at the tuning fork to change. Change your own tone and watch her tune to you. That's emotional leadership. That's masculine steadiness in motion. So the next time things start spiraling, don't react to the noise. Lead the moment. Anchor yourself first, and she'll eventually find her balance in your steadiness. because that's what true leadership does. It doesn't demand peace, it creates it. And once you know how to create that kind of consistent peace, you'll notice something wild. She starts responding differently without you saying a word. That's what we'll talk about next. How to become the kind of man who performs with calm confidence so consistency stops being hard work and starts being who you are. All right, brother, this is where we hit the hard truth. You can't fake consistency. You can fake effort for a few days. You can fake confidence for a week, but you cannot fake consistency because the truth always leaks through your energy. If your changes look forced, she'll sense it. If your tone feels rehearsed, she'll sense it. If your calm is just a mask for control, she'll sense that too. That's why inside the heroic husband method, we don't teach men to act calm. We train them to become calm. We don't create pretenders. We build performers. Now, when I say performer, I don't mean fake. I mean mastery. A performer doesn't try to get it right once. He practices it until he can't get it wrong. That's the difference between a guy who acts confident for a moment and a man who is confident because he lived it 1,000 times. That's the difference between extrinsic motivator or an external motivator and an intrinsic motivator, which is what we build. That's what we teach our clients. How to make leadership so natural, so practiced, that it stops looking like effort and starts feeling like instinct. That's when leadership becomes a muscle memory. So let me tell you about one of my clients. We'll call him Mark. Mark used to lose his cool almost every week. Not in some explosive way, but in those quiet, subtle moments that chip away at trust. The sigh under the breath, the irritated tone when she didn't respond the way he'd hope, the tension in his jaw said, "I'm trying, but I'm tired." He wasn't a bad man. He was just trying to perform under pressure without any training. So we started small. Every day for 30 days, he practiced one thing, which is grounding. Just breathing, noticing his body, and holding calm, even when she was cold or distant. Here's what happened. About 6 weeks in, his wife, who barely talked to him, looked at him one night and said, "You feel different. You're calmer." She didn't know he'd be retraining his nervous system. She felt it though. And that's the moment I told him, see? She can't trust your words yet, but she's starting to trust your consistency. Because that's the order of things. Consistency builds credibility. Credibility builds safety. Safety builds desire. That's the path. Think of it like learning to play the piano. When you first start, you're clunky. You overthink every key. You make mistakes, stop and start again. But when you practice long enough, your fingers know the song by heart. You don't have to think anymore. The music just flows. That's what emotional leadership is. At first, it feels mechanical. You have to remind yourself to breathe, to listen, to stay grounded. But over time, it becomes automatic. It becomes who you are. And that's when she starts to feel the difference. Not because of what you say, but because of how you show up. Pretenders perform under pressure and then collapse. Real performers stay steady no matter the conditions. Because calm isn't a tactic, it's a lifestyle. And when you embody that, when she sees you leading with calm consistency, that's when her guard drops. That's when safety returns. And that's when real attraction can finally come back. That's the shift from pretending to performing. Now that you know how consistency rewires the trust, let's talk about what happened next. When you finally move from internal mastery to external skills, that makes everything else fall into place. Because when the foundation is strong, the tactics finally start working again. Once you've rebuilt your internal stability, the external tactics finally start to work. Communication frameworks, conflict tools, reattraction skills. That's when conversations flow again. But remember, if you start with tactics and skip the internal rewiring, you'll stay stuck. Fix the foundation first and everything becomes natural. That's the final truth. You can't force her to change, but you can become the man she naturally wants to follow again. So if you're ready to rebuild trust and lead your marriage back from the edge, stop guessing. Book a free call below. We'll walk you through the same frameworks these men used, step by step, so you can win your family back for good. Until next time, Stay grounded, stay consistent, keep leading. Because your family's future depends on the man you choose to become today.